Hi folks, welcome back to the Tabletop's Edge and our continuing campaign playthrough of the combined Days of Decision World in Flames Collector's Edition. We've reached March-April 1940 after a very active January-February 1940 that saw just unbelievably good weather everywhere. And that good weather allowed the Germans to make a big attack in Belgium and pierce temporarily the Allied defensive lines there. Meanwhile, further eastwards, the Soviet Union embarked upon their first bit of expansion by conquering Iran in a lightning attack on Tehran. So it remains to be seen whether the good weather that we've had so far this year is going to continue into the springtime, or whether some rains will come along and perhaps slow down the Germans in the west and give the Commonwealth and the French some time to shore up their lines there and maybe bog down the Germans throughout the summer, while perhaps bringing in some help from the east. So we shall see. Let's get right to it. There's going to be a lot to do this turn. We begin as usual with the political phase, and we're going to have a surprisingly active one this turn, considering that we've got 5 of the 8 major powers actually at war right now. Bidding was interesting. Money is really becoming an issue with active wars going on all over the globe. Major powers are needing their money to build troops, to provide replacements in some case, or to just build up their forces in general. But everyone is sitting right now at 0 except for France, who is actually in debt at -4. And that is really, as we saw last turn, starting to kind of impact the French production at just the point in time where she doesn't need something like that. So with that in mind, we've got a lot of powers. Actually, every single power actually bid for a political option this turn. But keeping in mind that they're going to want to spend as much money as they can on military units, they've kept their bids as low as they think they can in order to try to get done what they want to get done this political phase. So we have Germany bidding 2, Italy bid 1, Japan bid 2, USSR came out and bid 4. They were the highest bidder. Commonwealth bid 2, France bid 1, US bid 3, coming in just behind the USSR, and China bid 1. Now, all of those bids are going to be modified by the initiative position from last turn. Nobody had any bonus bid points for failing to implement a political option last turn. All 3 powers that bid were able to get at least one of their political options done. So what it looks like when we get to the modified bids is Germany's going to be sitting at the top here with her bid of 2 plus 4 for a grand total of 6. Coming in second, just behind her, there are 3 countries with a total of 4. Italy had 1 plus 3 is 4, along with the Commonwealth, who bid 2 plus 2, also 4, and France, who bid 1 plus 3 is 4. So we've got these 3 major powers here tied, so it's going to come down to where the political effectiveness is as the tiebreaker. And in that case, you can see the Commonwealth's political effectiveness is a 6. That's going to be good enough to put them into second place, and then behind them will be France staying in third, and Italy's going to drop down here to the 4th position. And there was, one more country tied with 4, and that was the USA, who bid 3 with the +1. Now, their political effectiveness is a 1, so that does put them behind all of the others, but it's good enough to move up into 5th position. Next, we've got 2 powers that are tied at 3. Now, if you recall, I said the Soviet Union bid 4. They're going to get a +2 for their previous position for a total of 6. However, the USSR is going to attempt to do 2 political options, which means that 6 then is divided between both of those for a final total of 3, which is enough to tie them with Japan, who bid 2 and gets the +1. Going over to the political effectiveness, we have the 2 of them being tied. And in that case, I believe it is the whoever was in the lower position the previous turn breaks that tie. So we'll have the Soviet Union come in 6th, Japan way down at 7th, and China with a bid total of 1 plus 0 for a grand total of 1. So we've got quite a few major powers trying to get some political stuff done, I think it will become pretty obvious why everyone is bidding this turn here in just a moment when we start to get into the actual play of the options. But we have a potential for a very long political phase this time. Of course, it's all going to come down to the die rolls. So first off the blocks is Germany. Let's go ahead and see what Germany bid for to try and get done this political phase. Now, I mentioned previously that money is becoming really tight for all of the major powers, and the best way to get yourself more money or increase that build point availability is to gear up, and that's exactly what Germany is going to do here. It is 1940, which is the year at which Germany can gear up. She would have geared up, I think, last turn, except she still had to select her declaration of war from way back in September, October. So that occupied the political phase last time for her. This time, she's going to go ahead and gear up. We can see that this has a substantial cost of 10 money. Now, when we combine that with the 2 that she bid for the initiative, that's going to drop Germany all the way down to a -12 balance right now. However, what this is going to do is move their production multiple from 3/4 up to 1, which should start to pay dividends right away, including the production phase later this turn. With that, you can see there's going to be some impact to the U.S. as well as some of the other minors here. I'm going to go ahead and make those adjustments, and then Germany will select a minor country to activate over on the map, and we'll implement whatever influence happens to be in that minor. So we will pick back up here in just a minute. Well, there were several interesting possibilities for Germany to, as far as minor countries to activate. Chile actually has a +5 towards Germany, along with some rather high negatives against France and the Commonwealth. So Germany could probably end up moving the Chile marker in her direction pretty well. Turkey's got some potential to move into the German sphere as well. However, Germany is going to decide to activate Finland up here. She has +4. That's combined with a French -4 and a Soviet -1 and a Commonwealth -4. Now, previously, as we'll see here shortly, Finland had moved into the fascist sort of sphere of influence. We'll see if this is going to be a move, if this is enough to sort of put Finland over the top and get Finland into the same hex as the German marker, which would then allow Germany to bring Finland into the war as an active minor in future turns. Let's go see what happens when we resolve the influence over on the status display. Here we are on the status display. You can see the Finnish markers located here in the outer band of the fascist ideology, the paternal monarchist band. And here are the influence markers that are currently in Finland. We're going to start off with the Soviet -1. That -1 is not going to be enough to move the marker in any direction. So we basically just kind of blow that off, and that's expended. Next, we'll go ahead and resolve the -4 Commonwealth influence. Now, the Commonwealth marker is here beneath the Polish marker, and it's going to cost 2 to push the marker 1 hex away. They will be crossing a boundary, which will add 1 to it to make it a total of 3 here, and the extra 4th influence won't have any effect. Next, we'll go ahead and resolve the French 4, and you can see France located here. That's going to be, again, 2 + 1, 3 to move her into the hex with Italy, of all nations. However, we have yet to resolve the German 4. It's normally 2 to move 1 hex. However, that's -1 when it's moving towards you in your ideology, which they are in the fascist ideology. So that's going to drop that to a 1. And then it's, I believe that's it. They are allied, but that's not going to have any impact at any in any event. The 4 influence is more than enough to shift the marker from Italy over onto Germany, and that is the rest of the influence that is in Finland. So it would appear that Germany has successfully maneuvered Finland into her hex, meaning that there's a potential ally for Germany in future turns, because the Germans do have an alliance with Finland, and currently no other major power has an alliance with Finland. Now that the marker is in the same hex on the status display, that means that Finland is eligible to be brought into the war as an active ally on the side of Germany at any point in the future here. So overall, Germany managed to get her gear up increasing her production multiple to 1, and she's been able to pull Finland fully into her sphere. So a rather successful political phase for Germany. Now, we would normally make the roll to end the political phase. However, with 5 major powers at war, there's going to be a +1 to that die roll, which means at this point there's no chance to end the political phase yet. So we will go on to the next major power in the initiative order, and that's going to be the Commonwealth. We'll see what the Commonwealth has up their sleeve. Well, the Commonwealth option shouldn't be terribly surprising given what we just saw from Germany. They are, in fact, going to try to keep pace with the Germans and select Commonwealth option 2, Gear Up. This Gear Up will bring them from production multiple of 1/2 up to 3/4. So they're still not at the same, they still don't have the same production multiple as Germany, but they do have a bit more in the way of resources and production points. So this will boost their income without doubt. This is an expensive option. You can see here at 10, once we factor in the 2 they spent to bid, that's going to put them, like Germany, at -12 right now as far as income. So we'll see what they end up producing this turn. They are probably not going to be able to get too many units out of the factories here, but they will be awfully close. They will probably be a little bit positive. We'll see. I'll have to go ahead and recalculate their build points here when we get to the production phase. But it is a gear up for the Commonwealth. As you can see, it's going to impact some nations here as well as the U.S. I'll go ahead and take care of that, and then it will be the Commonwealth's turn to activate a minor country, and we'll see if they can have the same kind of success that we just saw Germany have with Finland. Well, there are not a lot of great options for the Commonwealth. There are a lot of countries with high negative influence, ranging from Turkey at -8. We've got Sweden at -7, Norway at -6, Ireland also at -6, Argentina -4. You kind of get the picture. There aren't a lot of countries that are terribly disposed towards the Commonwealth at this point. The one major exception is Portugal, where they're sitting on a +8, along with some positive French and a little bit of positive German influence there. So the Commonwealth is going to activate Portugal here, and we'll see just where the marker ends up after we resolve all this influence. So let's head back to the status display. Back at the status display, we can see the Portugal marker is located here, pretty much dead center between the fascist and democrat ideologies. And we have the influence markers that were in the country displayed here just off to the right. And I think that's the order in which we'll go ahead and resolve them. We start off with a +2, a +2 for Germany, which will move actually will it, because Portugal is allied with, they have an alliance with the UK. Is that correct? Did I see? Yes. So Portugal being allied with the Commonwealth, it is a +1 if you are moving, where is it? Moving away from any allied major power. So normally it would take just 2 to move Portugal into one of these hexes. Back, you can see where it started the game. However, because of the alliance with the Commonwealth, it would take 3 to move it away from the Commonwealth, and therefore the German influence is wasted. Next up, we have a total of 2 French influence. France's marker is located up here, and this will be moving towards the Commonwealth's marker, or at least no further away. So that should be enough to move it that 1 hex. And now we have a grand total of +8 remaining for Portugal. It's going to be just a straight 2 to move the marker into this hex. That's going to leave 6 remaining. With this next hex, either here into China's hex or here, maybe we'll move it here. That's going to be 2 to move there, plus 1 to cross the barrier for a total of 3. That leaves us with 3 remaining. And it's going to be a base cost of 2 to move into the Commonwealth hex. It's going to be plus 1 to cross the barrier to make it a total of 3. However, it is moving towards the Commonwealth within the ideology now, so that's going to subtract 1 from that and leave it at a 2. And that will put Portugal in the hex with the Commonwealth. So the Commonwealth, as you can see, they've got Portugal and Poland now stacked in their hex. They do have the alliance with Portugal. No other major power has an alliance with Portugal. So similar to the situation between Germany and Finland, should the Commonwealth desire, they could bring Portugal in as an active ally at any point in the future here. Now with Poland, the snag with Poland is that the Commonwealth doesn't have an alliance with Poland. France has an alliance and Germany has an alliance. And France wouldn't be able to bring Poland into the war if Poland were stacked with her because of the alliance with Germany. You cannot have the minor country have an alliance with any other major power in order to bring it into the war. So there's some diplomatic work to be done as far as Poland goes if the Commonwealth and France entertain any ideas of trying to get them to join the war actively on their side. But I would say overall, the Commonwealth, like Germany, had a fairly successful political phase. Now we will roll to see if the political phase ends. There have been 2 options played previously. However, we do have that plus 1 because there are 4 or more major powers actively at war. And 3 plus 1, that's a 4 that is greater than 2, which means the political phase will continue. That's going to make France happy, I think, because France is next up in line for their political options. So let's see what France is going to play. Now, France is going to be playing IPO 5. Minor joins in. If you recall last political phase in January, February, France attempted to do 2 political options and was only able to get the first one in, that being the its war declaration on Germany when she invaded the Netherlands way back in September, October 1939. Now, at the time when Germany invaded the Netherlands, the Commonwealth had a guarantee. I think they may have even had an alliance with the Netherlands. They declared war. Since France was a level 3 treaty partner with the Commonwealth, that gave France a casus belli against Germany as well. They immediately took advantage of that and also declared war. And then, at least at the time, it seemed like a good idea. They went ahead and brought Belgium into the war as an active minor power. Now, at the time, I don't think the French thought it was going to take, 1 to 3 turns to sort of resolve those 2 declarations of war, if you will, on Germany. But that's the situation she finds herself in. She's also in a rather poor financial situation, sitting at -4 at the start of this turn, and that's before playing this sort of mandatory option here. You can see it is not a cheap option either. It is 5 money. So combined with the bid that France put in of 2, I believe it was, at the start of the turn for initiative position, that's going to drop her to a current financial state of -11. Now, this has an interesting effect on miners. I'm going to apply the treaty chart, and then I'm going to increase all negatives on that treaty chart by a further -1. And as far as the U.S., I'm going to apply 2 times the treaty chart value. And then it'll be up to France to activate a miner, and we'll see if she can continue this streak of pulling miners into one's sphere of influence, like Germany and Commonwealth did. So let me take care of all that, and we'll pick up over on the map briefly, let you know which minor country France is going to activate. Well, like the Commonwealth, France doesn't have a lot of friendly miners around the world. She's really only got a couple of so-so choices, at least countries where she has a decent chance of moving the marker somewhat towards the democracies, and that's either Mexico or Iraq. And I think what they're going to do is go ahead and activate Iraq. Now, before we head over to the status display, I did want to mention one thing that I almost sort of skipped over just now, and that is the fact that Commonwealth and France are level 3 treaty partners, which means that they can pay for one another's political options in part or in whole. Given the poor state of French finances right now, the Commonwealth opted to pick up 3 of the cost of that of the political option that France just selected. So rather than sitting down at -11, France is now just at -8, and then that pushed the Commonwealth down to -15. However, the Commonwealth, having just geared up, should be able to dig herself out of that hole a lot faster than France. And of course, this also raises some concerns moving forward, in that you're starting to see other major powers, especially Germany, start to gear up and improve their production multiple, while France is languishing and unable to get that done because she had to get this Belgian IPO out of the way. That said, hopefully France can go ahead and try to gear up next turn. But again, gear ups, as you're seeing, while the cost varies from major power to major power, it's a fairly substantial cost. And France is already in the hole. They're going to be in the hole even after the production this turn, when they produce no units, and going even further into debt with a massive gear up cost next turn. So there's going to be some tough decisions for the French moving ahead. Again, the Commonwealth is going to do what they can to help her out from a finance perspective, but Commonwealth needs to continue to build up her armed forces as well. And the question really becomes, will Commonwealth be doing France more good by paying for political options like the gear up, or by taking those build points and instead building Commonwealth military units that can then be shipped into France and actually fight the Germans? So that's something that remains to be seen. For now, we're going to head back to the status display, and we're going to resolve the influence markers that were in Iraq. Here we see Iraq's marker located right in the neutral zone, right in the middle. It has not shifted from where it began the game. And over here we have the influence markers there. First up is a Soviet -1. Again, that's not going to be enough to move it, so that just gets wasted, as does the Japanese +1. That brings us to a Commonwealth +2. That will be enough to move the marker, and that will shift it closer to the Commonwealth marker. And then finally, we've got 3 French influence. In a way, you kind of hate to waste that third influence, but we will at least get Iraq right up to the edge of the Democrat ideology, but not quite in it. So some movement, but again, nothing really dramatic here, and that's kind of to be expected given the rather low positive influence that France has in most of the minors out there now. So with that being done, we now roll to see if the political phase is going to continue or not. We have 3 political options that have been done now, and again, we're going to add a +1 to the die roll. A 1 + 1 is 2, and that's going to make a lot of countries not happy, because that does bring the political phase to an end, which means the Italians, the United States, the Soviet Union, the Japanese, and the Chinese, none of them get to do their political options. And I imagine many of you have a pretty good guess of what most of those political options were going to be. So France, really not very popular right now with really anybody else out there. So that brings the political phase to an end. That's going to roll us into the whiff portion of the turn. And seeing as this particular political phase didn't last quite as long as I thought it might, or potentially could, I'm going to keep going here, and what we'll do is we'll roll for weather, we'll roll for initiative, and we'll do the reinforcement segment, and then probably wrap up this video, and then the next video will start in on the action stage with whomever wins initiative. Rolling for initiative this turn, the Democrats rolled really well. They rolled a 9, but there are markers in the -1 box, so that brings it down to an 8. The Soviets rolled a 7. They are in the +2 box, which gives them a total of 9. So they're going to just edge out the Democrats, while the fascists rolled a 3. So what we'll do is the Soviets will let the Democrats go first, then they will go second, and the fascists will bring up the rear with the third position. Rolled for weather. Weather was a good roll. It was an 8. No modifiers because of the good weather on the last impulse. And what that means is we have the exact same weather as we had last impulse. It is rain in the Arctic. It is fine everywhere else. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and take a look at reinforcements that are coming on the map this turn. We actually have a Spanish Republican, good motorized corps for them. They can certainly use that. The French will be getting their HQ Prédelat back. The Germans have a pretty good militia, the Hamburg militia. Speaking of militia, the Japanese Nagoya militia is coming on map, as is the Auckland militia for the Commonwealth and the Chongqing militia for the Chinese. So kind of a bad draw there for the Commonwealth. It's going to be a while before the Auckland militia can be anywhere useful. They may just end up parking them out there as a garrison somewhere in the Pacific. The Spanish nationalists, to counter the motorized corps, they're getting the Spanish Blue Division and a regular infantry corps. The Chinese, in addition to the militia, are getting a good for them garrison. The Commonwealth is also getting an infantry corps, so that's good. They'll be arriving in the UK and in a much better position to do something immediately. They are also getting 1 pilot for the Commonwealth. They've got a number of pilots now on the track. We'll see if they start to bring some aircraft on map with that. Speaking of aircraft, the Spanish Republicans get their fighters back, and they do have a pilot on the track. So the fighters will be coming on map this turn, so they'll be able to put something up in the air to stop the nationalist bombers. The French get a rather poor fighter. This will go into the pool for the moment, although they do have a pilot, so I expect we'll see this fighter come on map, because right now it's all hands on deck. The Italians pick up a fighter. The Germans get 2 single-engine fighters. You get a not so good German fighter and then a pretty decent 5-strength fighter. They are also going to pick up 1 pilot. That's going to give them 2 pilots now on the track, which means we are very likely to see both of these fighters come on map. The Soviets actually pick up a single-engine land bomber, as well as a good mechanized corps. The Japanese are going to add an artillery unit and a pilot, and that's going to give them 2 pilots as well in the pool for now. I think they have some carrier pilots they may bring on. The Italians, in addition to the fighter, they're also getting a twin-engine land bomber and a pilot, so a big turn for the Regia Aeronautica. One of these 2 will probably come on map, since they have just 1 pilot now. And then the Americans, they also will be adding a pilot to their pool. Let me just see where he is. All right, so that's going to give them a total of 3 pilots now in their pool. They get a transport, which is going in the construction pool, and it's a fairly fast transport. The Commonwealth gets another carrier plane. We'll put that in the reserve pool for now. Japanese are going to add a convoy point. Commonwealth gets a light cruiser, HMS Bonaventure, and the Americans get the USS Indiana into the construction pool, and the Japanese will have the Junyo go into the construction pool. And that's going to do it for the March-April reinforcements. I'll go ahead and put these on map. We'll wrap up this episode here today. Thank you again for watching. Hopefully this one's coming out a little bit more quickly than the previous one did, and I hope to be able to keep this pace going forward. And then we're going to dive right into the action stage with the Democrats' first impulse next time out. So thanks again. Till then, take care. We'll see you next time.